powered by SID Media. From broadcast to baptism.
At 16 minutes after 9, good morning, good morning, good morning. Ladies, we are about to have an amazing conversation this morning, and I'm very excited to have the ladies from SAWID, the South African Women in Dialogue. Let me introduce each of them individually. The two ladies joining me in conversation will start off with Ms. Vatiswa. Moea, Ms. Vati, I was saying, Uguti, I don't think I've been pronouncing your surname correctly. Please correct me. Good morning to you. How do I pronounce your surname?
I'm not sure whether that was directed to me, but I could not hear a thing. I just unmuted and only now I
Okay.
can hear.
No, it's okay. Let me start off with you, Dr. Criselda. I was asking how to pronounce Mrs. Vati's surname, but it's fine. I'll start off with Dr. Criselda Kananda. She is a radio and TV presenter. She's a businesswoman. She's a facilitator. She's a speaker, a counselor, a writer, amongst many other attributes. I think the first one that actually appears on your profile, Dr. Criselda, is a mother. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm trying to connect to a different gadget because this one is almost impossible. I'm not as advanced as Sis Vatiswa, but thank you for inviting us. We're very excited to be here.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Sis Vati, indeed, good morning to you. Before I butcher it, please tell me how do I pronounce your surname? I think you might be muted at the moment. There we go. Can I hear you now? I can hear you speaking, but I can't quite hear you yet. But there is a sound. I can hear there's some sound. But it looks muted. I'm unable to mute you on my side. But if you can unmute, there's a button over here that I'm seeing.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
There we go. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for accepting an invitation. I think I've done enough damage for the day. Please let me know. How do we say it?
It's Vatiswa Moea.
Moea. There we go.
This is Sotho. That's why I'm wondering how. If you speak Sotho, you should be able to crack this one.
I don't think I'm saying this right. Moea. Okay, there we go. Thank you very much. So Usis Vatiswa Moea, also a very powerful and dynamic woman. Sis Vati, I googled you and it said that you are a senior change and business transformation leader and an independent consultant, amongst many other things. You do a lot, and of course, I believe you are the executive director also at the South African Women in Dialogue. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Millicent. I'm also excited to be here this morning.
Indeed. And I know Sis Criselda or Dr. Criselda is also just trying to log in. Let's see if we've got her back. Are you feeling better, Dr. Criselda? Is this one better? Are you good? Okay. Let's see if we can get into it and hopefully we'll be able to engage. Happiness. So I think I speak for many women when I say, let me say young women especially, when I say that there is inspiration that is experienced when looking at another woman, or other women doing well in life and feeling like, whoa, one day I would love to enjoy the freedoms that seem to be that lady's reality. But the truth is, getting there doesn't just happen overnight. There are many decisions that need to be made along the way that makes a powerful woman a powerful woman. And we would love to share some of those tips today. I want to learn as well about some of those as we celebrate International Women's Day together with the amazing women from the South African Women for Dialogue. And I think that's where I would like us to begin, ladies. firstly, how did you start this organization? Very curious about that. Let's go to Sis Vatiswa. Sis Vatiswa, how did you come together as a team and be like, SAWID is something that South African women need, and we are going to be the platform for exactly that?
Thank you, Millicent. I actually wish I could even take the credit, but I can't.
Yeah.
SAWID is a brainchild concept that got converted into reality by leaders, women leaders that came before us, your Mam Zanele Mbekis of this world, your Dr. Brigalia Bams of this world, and so many other women leaders that we have continued to enjoy their leadership in South Africa. It came about out of an aspiration for them to say, women can easily feel like we are included, but the inclusion is superficial because we don't consider all women in spaces where they need to represent themselves for their own agenda. Their agenda is being discussed and deliberated by other people whilst the women are there, particularly grassroots women. I think that was the differentiating factor. How do we make sure that all women across race, across age, across, all kinds of demographics are properly included in spaces that discuss and plan for their empowerment and progression?
I think that's really powerful, especially when you mentioned the grassroots, because the debates, I know they say social media is not real life, but when you look at some of the debates that happen there, they will give a very skewed picture of reality where it's like women are actually doing everything for themselves and you guys actually have a better life by far than men. So I don't understand what the issues are that you guys are complaining about. Dr. Criselda, you became part of this organization. Maybe let's start with how you then also got on board.
What I love about the concept of SAWID, this is a volunteer-based organization where you identify yourself as a South African citizen or citizen of the world, and not ask questions about what can the country do for me, but rather what can I do for my country. So SAWID is a volunteer-based organization where like-minded women come together searching for solutions for some of the ills that affect them on daily basis. So there I was many years ago, as Vatiswa mentioned, as executive director, that this was founded by Omama like Mam Zanele Mbeki, Mam Brigalia Bam, Mam Thoko Mpumlwana, and many more. These women came together identifying that there's a challenge that we are spoken about and not to. And we are not part of our solution. So what do we do? So there I was as a young activist at the time talking about HIV, something that had never been conceptualized the way I did. And these women decided, Ujaji Lo, she talks a lot. She's a perfect fit for our organization. So I started off as a volunteer and grew up in the organization, and I'm now one of the trustees. But it's just purely from one identifying the gaps in building this South Africa that all of us want to be proud of, and not only complaining using these gadgets, because these days everybody is a journalist. We use gadgets to complain, to crash, to condemn, but we don't use them to build. So the beauty about SAWID is that platform that gives a voice to the voiceless, that gives agency in matters that affect us as women of South Africa.
Yeah, excellent. And I'm interested in the voiceless that were mentioned and the grassroots women, the conversations that they are interested in, because if we are finding a gap, what are the things that they would like to be addressed that perhaps in mainstream media we often overlook? So, Criselda, you started out by sharing that you often spoke about HIV. Now that you have grown up in the organization, what are some of the things that have come to the attention that, okay, these are issues that women need addressed?
So, but many of the issues that have been raised are issues like food security, where poverty still yields its head, and it's becoming uglier and uglier. And what is said is that the face of poverty is now clearly a woman. The gender-based violence, that the statistics continue to grow, and we're not finding each other. I mean, out of frustration, women coin phrases like "men are trash" out of not understanding what is this thing that we're dealing with. These are supposed to be our brothers, our carers, our security, and it's not happening that way. And therefore, I mean, South African Women in Dialogue plays in that space where we find ways of engaging each other in a healthy environment, in a healthy, progressive, productive way that gives solutions to some of our challenges. Violence and abuse is yielding its head. I mean, you look at what's happening in our schools. These bullies don't come from bushes. They come from families. And you then ask yourself, what goes into developing that child? And that's these are some of the challenges that women have raised. Women have raised issues of equal pay for equal jobs, where there's still huge differences between what women are paid compared to men in the same work environment. Economic opportunities. We talk about this 50-50, and it's mostly spoken of in conversations, but not necessarily practically, because you still, I mean, when you look at the statistics of leadership, and Vatiswa would speak to this because this is what she does on a daily basis, that in senior executive positions, there's still a huge gap between men and women. I saw a very funny video that's doing rounds where this guy is saying, with all these wars that are happening, if only women were presidents, I'm telling you, all they would do is just gossip and hate on each other, but they would not kill each other.
Okay. The stereotypes continues to stereotype,
Yeah,
eh?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, and lack of access to accurate information about who we are, who we purport to be, and whose we are. I feel like we need, over and above the dialogues that we've had over the years of 1,000 women under one roof, joined by a common cause. We also need urgently intergenerational conversations, because our
Mm.
Millicent Vatiswa, these days, you look at how we were raised and the teachings that we received. Our Millicent are on a different level altogether. They have
Yes.
a baby shower where they do gender reveals. We from an era that said when you announce a child without having handed the child over to its ancestors, you are welcoming all evil spirits upon the child. And I don't
Mm.
believe that these are teachings that we are transferring to the generation that's coming after us. And that gap needs to be closed. Because if it's not closed, somebody, something is going to dictate who we become in future. And what we're seeing now is so un-African. And we need to have those conversations where intergenerationally we take that baton and say, this is who we are, and this is how we do things, and this is why we do things the way we do. Can you imagine if the fish just decided that I now want to live in inland, I no
Mm-hmm.
longer want to be in water? It
Mm-hmm.
would not be in its natural habitat. So as Africans, we're moving, fast moving away from who we originally are. And that is going to be our biggest downfall.
Hey, kushuthi re wile tlar, because there's
Claro,
a lot
claro.
there's a lot that's happening. Yeah. Yo. And that example that you gave, ne, it's so true. And there's a lot of practices, Vele, that we just, I don't know if it's us saying, I don't want to be like my parents. They were being they grew up in a soldier kind of militant way, and they hurt me so much, and we even break those family relations with them. So I don't know, there's a lot. And going into then some of these realities, Sis Vatiswa, please share. When I was preparing this question, I was like, I don't know how to ask it, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. There's a lot of statistics and research that people like coming up, and I think sometimes it's out of the thumb. And I want us
Yes.
to know, okay, in reality, what are some of the things that pertain to women that women don't actually know? That, guys, these are the realities on the ground. We've got the numbers. The example that I think I wrote was about marriage, right? Where who lives longer when they get married? Is it men or is it women? Someone might
Mm.
think this doesn't matter, but if
Yeah.
we are looking at life and death, everything matters. Can you share some of those interesting facts?
I think the one that is a favorite one for me and resonates a lot is the fact that, and it's probably commonly known, that women outlive men, right?
Mm,
Because I think it is also testimony to the strength of a woman. Because if you think about the role that women play in their families, they are nurturers. They are the ones that carry the biggest burden of making sure that a family thrives. But on top of that, you don't hear that men then live longer than women. It's actually the other way around. Having done all of that, you would expect that at a certain point, they are tired, their lives are cut shorter, but testimony to the strength that women possess. They outlive men. They
mm.
say the average age for women in terms of mortality is about 85 years compared
Wow.
to men, which is about 73 years. And I think there also another interesting fact linked to that is the fact that it is also almost commonly known and understood that even where it happens that a woman passes on before their husband does,
Mm.
it's commonly known in our society that, oh, shame that poor guy. He
It's not
is
going to be
going
too
to
long.
struggle. Yes, he's
Yeah.
going to struggle with life, and very soon the family will be wanting to intervene to say, "Hi, we must help him find another wife," because it's as
Yo.
if his ability to live and thrive beyond when the wife has passed away is a bit of a struggle. So that for me, Millicent, and I mean there's many others, but that
Mm.
one, if any woman has to take testimony for, yes, if any woman has to take testimony to the strength that we possess as women, it should be in exactly that.
Okay.
We build, we facilitate development, we make sure that our families thrive, but on top of that, then we even live longer having done
Mm,
all of that.
And it sounds like it's kind of like no matter what the circumstances are, generally women will live longer.
Absolutely,
I
absolutely.
know we're talking about women, but that point, yeah, it's bothering me. Are men being babied? Okay, they boys eqaleni angithi. Is it that they are being babied so much that even when they are old now, let's find him a wife? Like, why?
You know, I've recently said that for women to be to play the role that they play or that we play, it comes from the experience that a woman gets just from falling pregnant and nurturing that baby to life. You
Mm,
learn so much as a woman from that experience. You learn how to change certain behaviors and habits because you realize that you are nurturing a baby to life, right? So it then starts coming naturally. So we cannot fault men from when they have to be nurtured. It's simply because for them, this experience of leading has to come when they are actually born. But for a woman, you have to learn to be a leader Just the minute you fall pregnant, you are being put into a leadership role. You are being put into a nurturing role where you change so many decisions about things that you must do and not do, coordinate your life in a certain way because you are preparing to bring a child to life, right? So we therefore can't blame. We have to spare a thought for them, because for them it only comes once they are born. For a woman, it comes from 9 months of making sure that even that boy gets born as a healthy baby boy.
Very interesting, Sis Vati. Very interesting thoughts over there. Okay. All right. I'm going to wait until we get to the end to challenge some of the notions. I'm sorry. I'll just hold my peace.
No, but I think I understand where
Yeah.
you're coming from, Millicent, because we've changed gender dynamics. You know, what I mentioned earlier on about our likeness and
Yeah.
how nature places us. As a result, you look at how we are socialized. As a little girl, you get gifted a doll so that you nurture from early childhood. And unfortunately, with the gender roles having shifted and changed, it's no longer about him learning how to be a provider and bringing the bacon. How things have changed now. You also placing the bacon on that table, and as a result, you don't understand, why do I have to be the nurturing one when I'm also equally bringing you know, my finances on the table. But if we were to be taken back to our gender roles, I don't know who defined them, and nobody must come for me. I was listening to you earlier on when you make some of the you know, opinions, and then you say, don't come for me, because that's what you young people do. Nobody must come for me in this instance. This is how we are socialized, and this is why you'll see when you cohabitate as a male and female, when you get into that space, it's going to be natural for you to get there and want to have the place livable. You'll make sure that there's proper furniture. But when a guy starts, it's just a couch and a TV, and he's good. Because that's how we socialized. And you know, over time, it becomes we unlearn things and learn new things. So guys, I mean, we as the example that was given by Vatiswa about us nurturing from that 9-month period, and emotionally you begin to connect to being a nurturer. That's how we are, that's who we are. And when we move away from that, we create confusion in mankind and how we coexist. Because now you want to take my space. It's now the hand wanting to play the role of a hand
Foot
taking
or
the role of
something. Yeah.
and when you do that, we call it a different ability. It becomes disability. And we need to really be mindful of how we're changing and shifting our likeness, our natural ways of doing things, how we were created for specific and certain things. If I were to really reverse my age and be 15 again, I would tell Criselda, the young Criselda, that you do not want to be in a relationship with a person who can't afford his vision. And these are some of the lessons that we need to teach young girls, that if he can't fund, if he can't lead, then he can't lead you. And if you are going to be the leader in that relationship, there's bound to be conflict. And this is why you end up beating each other up. Because you are changing the roles, you are changing the dynamics. So what we do, our nature as SAWID, is to dialogue about these issues, get them on the table
We
for
need
us
you.
to reflect, see ourselves as we are now, so that we find solutions that are working for families that we are now.
Yeah,
The newest family is no more. I don't know whether we equate it to the devil or something ugly that's targeting families, which is just so unfortunate. The family dynamics have changed completely, and we need to now talk about this new family that we've become. What does it mean? Um, and how do we navigate our way that we don't continue hurting each other in the name of trying to relate?
100%, Dr. Criselda. And I love, nothing makes me happier than pragmatic conversations. And just to invite you on board as well, if you would love to weigh in with a question or with a comment, +2773 470 3520, as we are in this conversation. Share your thoughts. Let's talk about it together. Dr. Criselda, you mentioned the issue of the nuclear family no longer being there. And I think that makes a very important conversation for women. And I loved how you went back to 15-year-old me. And that's what we need. We need to hear, Ish, what works, what doesn't work. But the world is changing so much that sometimes you don't know what's going to work and what is not going to work, because everything is a constant revolution. But you also gave a practical example of finances, for example. And, I'd like to, for us ladies, on these issues of being educated, being financially able to do things for yourself versus then the community with the other gender. How are we supposed to relate with each other? Because it does cause a clash. That clash being, I have had to learn to do these things that, I don't know, 500 years were what men had to do. Now I am doing it. So men, the expectation, I think, is, as women, sometimes we then want the men to just learn how to do the things that the women do as well, and then that will kind of like balance the things out, and the home will be able to be hanky-dory again. What are some of those lessons that you have discovered about ladies, and what generally works and generally doesn't work? I understand that there are always nuances here and there. Let's start with Dr. Criselda. Oh, you want, come, Sis Vati, come on board.
So I always I think, Millicent, that the roles that women play, I think they've always played them. It's just that they were nuanced and positioned differently. If, yes, we look back to many, many years ago where it feels like men are the ones that went to work and then women were sitting at home and looking after the children. I think with my experience growing up and things that I've observed, women were still, as much as they did not bring the money, how the money was used was still the responsibility of a woman. Because we also know how, if you are not financially and economically savvy as a person generally, you could be working and earning a lot of money, but if you don't know how to use it and what to do with it, then it's as good as you are not productive. So for me, when I think about that, I then realize that it actually was a bit of a disservice to say women were not economically, and maybe it still goes back to issues of patriarchy and how women were being positioned, right? To say, oh no, they didn't work, they were not economically independent. What exactly does that mean, where we also know and hear that the man would get home and make sure that the woman is at the heart of coordinating and leading how the money is used? Then he'll go to the mine, but he sends the money to the wife, make sure you do this for the children, buy furniture, So for me, I think that is the first notion around how it feels like the more things have changed, the more they stay the same. It's just that they once positioned differently even back then.
Interesting. Very interesting.
So what concerns me is that when we take away the woman's role, because indeed the men had to go and work and bring the money so that the woman could put it to good use. Now that we've taken the woman away from this very important role for the family, look at what has happened. Our children are forever on gadgets. They don't know values. They don't know their worth. Our children are addicted to substance. Our children have no one to build their character. With all children, when you get them to talk about how they grew up, every child will tell you that my grandmother used to say this to us. My mother used to say this to us, because these become ingredients of bringing out the character in the individual. And now those lessons are no longer there because both of us come back, we are tired, and each one looks at one who's going to order Uber Eats now. There's no longer families that are sitting at the table, because we've taken the role of the woman and we've engineered it to be a provider. And it's so unfortunate. And this is partly why families are broken. And I know that you guys feel like, I want to be independent. I want to have my own money. That's not our nature. Your softness is what the family requires. You need to be the princess, the queen of the house. He needs to go and sweat. Even in the Bible, it is said that we feed off his sweat, not her sweat. So we need to go back to those basics and go back to our nature. And when you look at many of the cultural practices in different religions and how they live, the woman's place, I mean, you and I, when we look at Arab women and how they are closed off and they hide their bodies, we look at them and think how primitive, and they love it. They love it because they know that the men will look after me. If I don't know how often you've traveled to see women in Dubai. I mean, I've been to some of those parties where they take off what they wear in public. Under those black long garments are all kinds of labels, real proper jewels, because their partners look after them. Not this thing that we are currently doing right now, because we've taken each other's roles. And as a result, we're breaking a whole lot of developmental processes that should be happening in bringing up children and bringing up families.
So, Dr. Criselda, do you feel like then feminism is the problem if perhaps feminism is to blame?
For me, feminism is not a dirty word. It becomes dirty when it's weaponized against men. In my femininity, allow me to lead in a soft way that allows me to be a woman in that environment. And the minute I begin to say that I want to be like a man, walk like a man, do things like a man, then I've taken away my likeness. And I keep mentioning this word. I hope if anything out of this conversation you remember is that we've moved away from our likeness. We've now taken roles. I've always said that the Sotho people say it beautifully, that if you are a CEO, and I'm not saying that people of lesser job specs don't deserve relationships, but if you are a CEO and you are going to be with a security guard, in order for him to hear you, to see you, he has to pull you where he is.
Yes.
So when God has placed you here and you move, you are now here. You are not going to operate at where you are placed. And when you don't operate where you are purposed and placed, you are misplaced. And that's why you end up being misused and a whole lot. I don't think you have enough time with what you've started. But look, we really have to unlearn a whole lot of things, that when the Bible talks about being equally yoked.
Yes.
When you are equally yoked with your partner, there's no strife. You don't have to second guess whether this person is for me, whether he loves me, he doesn't love me. But when you know you have no business being there. Most of the time, you're trying to figure out why this happens the way it happens, because you are not equally yoked.
That was really powerful. Hey, we are in conversation this morning with Usis Vatiswa Moea, as well as Dr. Criselda Kananda from the South African Women in Dialogue. And we are being educated this morning as we learn the importance of having conversations as ladies and, anything that can help us and restore us to what is Dr. Criselda says our natural self. I don't know who's going to teach us those values in this world, and rightly so. We mentioned the nuclear family is not there. How do you live in that era of your femininity when there's no father in the home, when you have to be the one to then work because your mom is a single parent and you are the eldest daughter, and things need to get done somehow? That takes away, it's like they're stealing that identity from you. It wasn't necessarily always a choice, but circumstances led to where you find yourselves. And I think that's the importance of these comments. And education, unfortunately, I don't know if it's unfortunate or not, it has its pros and cons, but it has come in some ways really developed us and nurtured us, but in other ways maybe there's also a lot of indoctrination that has socialized us, and so there's so much confusion, and we want to find out, how do we fix it? Is it possible to actually fix these issues even beyond just the conversations? Sis Vati, considering the time, let's go through maybe, two questions. I asked, are all women the same? You know how we say, for example, you'll hear people say, men are the same, all men are the same. Yeah. Are women the same? Number two, in sync with that, are women the same? I'd like you to also then touch on, are there behaviors that we need to learn as women not to flee from, rather? Are there things that we need to flee from? Just warn us on those kinds of things.
Thank you. So, Millicent, the immediate answer could be all women are the same, because first and foremost, we possess qualities that are innate in us, right? That we are born with, that set us apart from the other gender. So on the basis of that, we are the same. But as much as we are the same, we are also then unique individuals, because we bring different strengths. And that for me is one of the beauties of a movement like SAWID, because we bring different things to the table, and those different things are as a result of our unique talents and offerings. But underlying all of that is the fact that we are women. We possess those innate qualities, those nurturing qualities, which when Dr. Criselda talks about our naturalism, that we should always protect and nurture, and not make them to be things that that can be used against us because of how we show up in society. So I think that is the first one. Just remind me again, there's a second question that you asked linked to that.
I'm interested in you sharing any warnings to women or younger women of things that we must not do that goes over our heads.
Women are very powerful. And our power lies in whether you are a woman who is leading from the front or leading from the back. Women are powerful, and those are some of the things that we all know and need to be mindful of. But in exercising that power, I believe that as women, there's something called a queen bee syndrome. I'm not sure if you've heard about it. The queen bee syndrome actually came about as a result of what Dr. Criselda was mentioning, where you now have women leaders who sit in boardrooms but have somehow closed the door for other women. They have made themselves to be more male and more relatable to males than they are to women, which therefore means I cannot even take comfort when I hear that this board, this board committee is made up of 3 women and 5 males. When I get there, it feels like there's actually 8 males, because I cannot even find a home in my fellow sisters and mothers that are occupying the space. So I think it's something we need to be very much aware of as women, because maybe it is the pressures of what it takes to belong in a patriarchal society that you end up then losing yourself and losing your identity. But you must realize that when you do that, you are closing other women leaders, young and old, behind. There are young girls that are looking to you to become that nurturer that will make them realize that it is okay to be a woman and still have a leadership position. You don't need to change yourself and become a male version of, there can't even be something that's called the male version of a woman. We are women, right? There's no such
Period.
thing. So
Period.
what are we trying to prove to who? Right. So let's be ourselves. Let's be nurturers in spaces that we have rightfully earned as women leaders. Let's go in there and be nurturers and be mothers and be sisters, because in doing that, we are showing other women that it is possible to show up in those spaces and still lead. I love the
100%.
example Dr. Criselda was making earlier on, to say, even with the wars in Iran, if it was women who were leading, right, there could be different, more nurturing ways of solving for the problem than picking up guns and shooting at one another.
Yeah. Dr. Criselda, thank you so much, Sis Fati. Dr. Criselda, I'd like you to maybe just advise on the last one. We all want to thrive in the society, different ages of women. How do we get to that in a heartbeat?
For me, it's purely just staying in your lane. And I know that I'm putting it in the simplest of forms when I say stay in your lane. When you are placed as a sister, be the best sister there is. When you are a mother, be the best mom. When you are a friend, be the best friend. And practice this thing of loving me. Because when I love myself, it will be my nature to give love. Value yourself, because when you value yourself, you choose things that add value in your life. And most importantly, choose yourself. It's just incredible how, when you put place, going back to the conversation about men and women, that men choose themselves all the time.
All the
In
time.
the boardroom where there's an opportunity, the first name that comes out of their mouth will be a man. And with us, you choose to club with a man, and then conscience kicks in to say, hey, Madam Criselda will see me and they will criticize me. Maybe I must just add a woman. But we need to be intentional about lifting as we rise. We're riding in the shoulders of incredible women who were not selfish about the position where they were. Your Winnie Mandelas of this world, she could have chosen to just be a social worker and forget about South Africa's problems, but she stayed the cause. Whether the cause stayed with her or didn't is a conversation for another day. Mamu Charlotte Maxeke, she could have just chosen to, being the first woman to ever have a degree, to practice and just walk away from problems. But there she was leading a march of 20,000 women who did not have any social media. All they had was the gift of the tongue, where you just tell a woman and it spreads like wildfire. If we can use that power, young and old, to connect to our power and shift the world, and don't shrink yourself to make other people comfortable. Understand that you are powerful as you are. You are enough. And to all the women who are watching this conversation, whether it's today or another day, please remember that on the 8th of March, it was International Women's Day, and happy International Women's Day. Define what being woman means to you. And as you define it, make sure that you take all the good characteristics of building that character that you have identified as who you are, and shine in the corner, just brighten the corner where you are. Those women taught us those songs, This Little Light of Mine, I'm gonna
let it shine.
So let
Oh,
it shine wherever you are, and don't let people ever forget who you are, whose you are. And it begins with
amen.
you embracing that.
I love that. Thank you so much. Very powerful motivation, Dr. Criselda. The people are listening and they're like, we want to be part of SAWID. Is it possible? How do we get
Absolutely. At SAWID, we say everybody's a SAWIDian. So now that our fellow sisters have heard us, they must know that they are SAWIDians. There's no membership to be a part of SAWID. You just, like Dr. Criselda said earlier on, you just lift up your hand and say, where can I roll my sleeves and also be of service? We are in all the social media platforms. We are on Instagram at SAWID_official. We are also on Facebook, SAWID Secretariat. We're also on X. And we've got our website as well as sawid.org.za, www.sawid.org.za. So please, we encourage our sisters, to our leaders, to reach out, be part of this wonderful movement, so that as we all progress, we leave no one behind, because that's actually our slogan as Sawidians, that we want to make sure that in all that we do, we leave no woman behind.
And
Beautiful.
you are the one that we're waiting for.
That you
Kidding.
exactly.
It was no dar. It was no dar. No. I'm Pagati inside. Watch me sending the emails after this conversation. Just okay. It
and
was
don't
so
get there and expect to be elevated by somebody else.
Pluto, no.
You shine your light, and somebody will identify you.
Thank you so much. This was so powerful. Dr. Criselda Kananda and Sis Vatiswa Moea from SAWID, SAWID. Ladies, it stands for South African Women in Dialogue. They are so warm. If you reach out to them, they're going to come back to you very quickly. I promise you, very kind women. And I think there's a lot that we can definitely do together to make sure we bring both South Africa up. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your time. It was such an honor to meet you both. Dr. Criselda, we'll be looking up to you in the media. So I'm very thank you very much for this.
You did very well, Millicent. You did very well. I'm proud of you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Ladies, have a beautiful International Women's Day today and an excellent rest of the Sunday. Do rest, ne? And we will be in touch.
I promise.
Thank you so much.
I promise.
Thank you for the opportunity and the conversation.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Adventist World Radio, SID Media. We are not general practitioners. We are specialists in Bible-based content.
And there we have it. Coming to the very end of the conversation this morning with SAWID. Thank you very much. Appreciated having the lady.